This is the ARRTX Acrylic Marker set, and I've been hearing a lot of good things about it, and since I'm very skeptical of any acrylic marker, I wanted to try it out myself. So hi everyone, I'm Ward, and welcome to my channel Wardrawsalot, and this week we're going to be reviewing the acrylic marker set from ARRTX. Now, inside comes 30 different colors. There is a set A and a set B. The difference between set A and set B is that set A is more pastel, while set B is more rich in color. The one I'm using is set B. I thought I would have a much better range of color for me to explore. I feel like pastels are nice and beautiful, but to test something out, I want to use the base colors, you know? The front and back of the packaging state that there are 30 acrylic markers. On the back of the packaging, like you just saw, is kind of like a little swatch set of all the colors. When you open up the inside of the package, you get this little sheet of stickers for the markers to kind of label them, which is really nice. Now, the marker itself is just a normal white barrel. It says ARRTX Acrylic Marker on it. It also has these two cute little purple hearts right next to the word marker, which I thought was a little nice, you know, it's like a little cute. It also says high adhesion because it's supposed to go on multiple surfaces because it is a paint pen. The nib is actually a brush nib, which is a nice change of pace compared to the rounded one that I see on every other, like, acrylic marker. The cap usually matches the color of the nib. Is it exact? No, you're never gonna get an exact color for any marker. It's not just these acrylic markers, it's for alcohol markers, all of them. But it does give you a very close idea of what it would look like. Of course, under the first tray is the second tray of colors, which you can see all laid out right here. And now it's time for the fun part, which is labeling the marker with the sticker. Now, what I noticed is that none of the markers actually have the number on them. But what they did is place the markers in the exact same order as the stickers, okay? So 00 corresponds to the first marker, 02 corresponds to the second marker, and so on, right? So don't move the markers out of order before you place the stickers on it, just so you don't get everything confused and jumbled up. Now, before we actually do a swatch sheet in color, I kind of want to recap on the markers that I've used and kind of been disappointed by. The first set of markers we have here are Poscas. These are the one that everybody knows, and like there was like a whole trend on YouTube a few years ago, and of course I was somebody who fell for the trend and bought like a shit ton of these Poscas, only to be like, I actually don't like them as much because they have a few problems. Next are these editing markers, which I got for sale at Blick Art Materials store, and they were like $1 each, which was good, but original price, they're kind of expensive, and for them not to work for that price was very disappointing. Probably why they were in the clearance section, not gonna lie. Then we have finally these Five Below acrylic paint markers, which I did a review on like maybe a year ago, and kind of looked at the price comparison versus like the markers and the color range and all that stuff. So now I want to swatch them here with you to kind of show you the problems that I have. Keep in mind that I'm not an expert with acrylic paint markers, so maybe this is all just because I suck. That's totally an option here. So for the editing markers, the issue is for me is that they don't have a good flow, okay? The bigger nib has a little bit more room to play with because, you know, it's fatter, so it's going to have more ink in it. The smaller nib, on the other hand, I really see issues with it because there's no ink flow. No matter how much I press it, shake it, it ends up dry and streaky for some odd reason, and it feels like it's just not a good experience using them. I don't know what it could possibly be. Maybe I had faulty markers, or maybe that's just how they are. Poscas, on the other hand, right, they usually do have a nice flow to them. They don't feel like a chore to use, which is good. The issue comes when I press and pump the marker, okay? The accident happens. What is the accident? When a puddle of paint just plops onto the paper and makes this huge mess and wastes excess paint. when I don't need it to be wasted. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just puddles up on the spot and could potentially ruin a drawing because now there's a whole bunch of paint where you don't need it to be. So it's kind of like wasting ink and possibly ruining the drawing that you're doing just because the ink flow is a little finicky. Then finally you have the Five Below paint marker, which, funnily enough, I have the least amount of problems with, and that's mostly because of the price. So I justify the poopiness for the price because you're getting 8 of them for $5, which isn't bad at all, but it honestly isn't that poopy. It's it's pretty alright. The flow is okay, and the ink is pretty... It's pretty decent, so I'm not going to complain too much about the Five Below one, but to see that the Five Below one can compare to the Edding and the Posca is kind of disappointing, especially because the Edding is expensive and the Posca is expensive. So you got two expensive brands right next to each other about to get knocked out by a Five Below paint marker, which shouldn't be happening. Now that I've talked to you guys about what kind of problems I have with the acrylic markers that I usually use, it's time to swatch the ARRTX acrylic markers and see if there's any difference. Keep in mind, okay, I'm using marker paper. Usually paint pens, I like to use something with a little bit more tooth in the paper so the paint can grip onto it more because I think it makes it look more painterly, and I'll show you that later on. However, the claim is that they are adhesive to anywhere, and that is, I think, with a lot of acrylic paint markers, that you're supposed to be able to use them on any given surface. So, is that necessarily an excuse for them? Maybe not. Am I giving it to them? I'll let it slide. Anyway, as I was laying down the colors, I noticed that the colors are actually very bright and nice, and I like them. They stand out really well, especially against my really white marker paper, and they felt really nice putting down. Now, of course, I tried to see if I could blend them out, because it's in me. I have to. I gotta try. And you can. But from what I was seeing, these markers kind of do better when you just layer them on top of each other. You can obviously blend with them, but like, it's just gonna take a little bit more work. And although I do love blending, I didn't want to do that with these acrylic paint markers because I wanted to try and explore a different kind of style with them. So I'm not always just doing the same thing with different art supplies, you get me? I also took a toothy piece of paper, which is like some sketch paper that I had lying around, and tested the markers on them as well to see if they would blend out. And of course they did again, and it looks a little bit more painterly like I was saying before. And it's funny because the one on marker paper looks more like a marker blend to me, while the one on the toothy paper looks more like a painted blend. So paper has a play in this. Of course, swatching isn't enough, so I drew this character in advance in my sketchbook just so I can color him in. Now, I do want to let you guys know, the next day I came back to actually use the markers, and I noticed that some of the stickers were peeling up off of the markers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it was all of them. Like, this one right here was pretty alright, but the thing that I'm worried about is that if you lose that sticker, are you still going to be able to tell what color it is? Unless you sat down and swatched them like I did and I can reference back to them, you won't really know. So be careful of maybe the sticker placement on the markers. Maybe do it a different like way than I did, instead of just like smoothing it over horizontally, maybe like vertically or something would work better. So just keep that in mind to make sure you definitely swatch in case you do lose those stickers, or maybe you get used to the colors enough to where you don't even need the stickers anymore to reference what color they are. So let's talk about my experience with these markers, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I love them. These are like fantastic. These have been like what I've been wanting in a paint marker. Number one, they got rid of that stupid mechanism where you gotta shake the marker right off the bat. That's already incredible, right? So I don't need to sit there and shake it just to activate the ink, although I did do it out of instinct for a few of them when I was swatching, just to see if it did anything different compared to other ones that I didn't shake, and there was no difference. So for these markers, you do not have to shake them to like kind of wake the paint up to put on the paper, which is nice because sometimes I would shake other acrylic markers and then I would have the cap off of them and then little paint splatters would end up everywhere. So it's nice to see that I could just lay the color down without having to aggressively shake the marker. Next, we have the brush nib. Now, the reason why I like the brush nib is because with the other markers, you only have the one size nib, okay? So you'd have to buy multiple sets of markers to get either a smaller look or a larger look, or become really skilled with these acrylic markers and know how to like kind of tilt them properly and use them properly to get really thin lines or really thick lines. The brush nib on these ARRTX marchers... Whoa, marchers. Where are we going? Who's marching? Anyway, the brush nib on the ARRTX markers gives you the ability to make really thin lines and really thick lines because the nib is flexible enough to do so, so you don't have to end up buying like 3 different sizes just to get thinner and thicker lines. Another thing that I do like about this marker set is that it comes with a good range of colors, from really light to a good amount of dark, not the darkest, but a good amount of dark in there. I wish they did have some darker or like even darker tones, but I'll deal with it for now. It comes with those 30 colors, which is nice for the price. I got it for, I think, like $26. It was on sale from $30, but if you were paying the full price of $30, it would be $1 a marker, which again isn't bad at all compared to like Posca and Edding, which can go up to $3 to $5 each, or even more depending on where you buy them. So that price is like criminal for it to be like that much per marker, and they doo-doo compared to these ARRTX markers, which are like $1 a marker, which isn't bad, and again you get a good amount in the pack with a decent enough range. Now I want you to keep in mind that I only used set B for this entire drawing. I do not have set A. I wanted to make sure that I only got 1 pack of these in case they were extremely booty. If they were just bad, I didn't want to waste a whole $60 on both packs. Instead, I would just waste the $26 on the 1 pack. But now that I'm happy with this pack and I actually enjoy it enough to use it again in future artwork, I may go ahead and buy set A just to see that I have all markers with me, like the whole set is complete and I don't have to look for a lighter tone in between everything. If you do end up getting both packs, it would run you about $60 for 60 markers. Again, that's $1 a marker, maybe some tax thrown in there depending on your state and all that crap, but otherwise it's a really good price for the amount you get. The only thing that I'm worried about truly is how much ink is in these markers. Okay, the barrels are kind of small, so how much ink do they really hold inside there? The flow was fantastic. I liked the flow on the marker from the nib and everything like that. The only thing that I'm truly worried about is how much ink comes in these, especially for somebody who likes painting a lot and how often they would use them in their sketchbook. I wouldn't be using these for every single drawing, but definitely when I feel like using them. So for somebody who uses them every day, they would have to let you know, or I could let you know in the future after I use them a good amount of times if they look like they're drying up or if they look like they're kind of dying. I would let you know how many uses it kind of took for that to happen. The brush nib itself felt like it was going to last a good while. Sometimes brush nibs that are on the cheaper side end up fraying a little bit at the top. If that does happen to these markers, I wouldn't be necessarily surprised, but from when I was using them, I could feel like they were sturdy enough to handle the use that they were going to be put through. All in all, honestly, these were some great markers. I really enjoyed using them. The benefit to using something like a acrylic paint marker is you can fix your mistakes so easily, dude. Like, there were so many times where I would overline something or color something in the wrong spot, and I would just go over it with the right color or fix it up so easy, and it was just a nice experience using them. Granted, I think that's with like all acrylic markers, but that's just how I felt. I felt nice using these. Now, I don't think ARRTX is the only brand that has done these kinds of acrylic paint markers. There are probably other brands out there that have, but this is the only brand that I know of and is trustworthy enough to kind of put out some good quality markers. Because sometimes you'll have the off brands of things, but the quality won't be as great. So to know that a company that is trusted along with other people who use art supplies is making a different kind of media supply, that feels a little bit better to me to use. So it's not just some random brand that I'm taking a chance on. Usually ARRTX has some pretty good quality stuff, so I had higher expectations for them, and they kind of pulled through. After all is said and done, this is the final drawing, and I absolutely love how it came out. It is different from my usual style, and that is because I'm using a different medium. Usually I'm a marker person, but painting is fun once in a while, and these markers made the process really easy and really fun to use. I honestly might just get myself the second pack and have some more fun with it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and remember I love you. Bye!